Hello, people of the internet. Today, I join you for Rally Peru time trial with an ETK taxi from Barcelona, which was hidden behind the barrier, sadly. But anyway, it is essentially a base model ETK with a taxi sign and delivery. There's not too much to it, let's be honest. But I decided it might be interesting to see how this would do in my week of taxis, as I've decided to do, because it's a modern ETK. As much as I don't like them, it could still be incredibly capable. So let's set off in 3, 2, 1, and a go. There we go. Come on. The automatic transmission is not the best thing in the world. Also, ESC is turned off, so it can't massively help the car when it's damaged or even not damaged. Because I recall before I did a series and it was an ETKS series which benefited massively from the electrical assists, which just weren't on other cars, and when I turned them off the lap time was worse, so we don't want it gaining a benefit that way. We're doing a lovely drift here. It's very controllable, but at the same time it feels slow. It feels slower than the Covet, I would say, but it's probably going quicker just because it's disconnected driving, I guess, from the road compared to that vehicle. And we're going wide, but it's okay. It does skate about a little, but it's overall gripping extremely well given the circumstances. I just have to be careful not to push it too far, I guess. It still can get some high speeds, bobble as it has got 150 horsepower, which is not a tiny amount. It's not a horrible amount of power, but there's been cars with far worse. Oh dear. That worked out quite well. That, with the bounce I was getting going on, I felt could have gone a lot worse. But this car has a 400 plus horsepower variant, I believe, so 150 horsepower should be nothing, even if the tyres aren't that good. The old ETK I series was still a better handling car though, I think. Despite all this, and as I'm going wide there, I managed to just about recover it. Yeah, it just likes to get the tail out a bit. Thankfully, I do believe it's an open differential on the way, so I'm not gonna go lifting the wheel and send the power to the tyre with the most grip, which will actually, ironically, make you lose grip and slide. Oh, come on. It sounds okay. Just the blind zones aren't nice, and there's so much plastic in this car. Even if they cover it with leather or whatever, it's still plastic that's here, and the existence of it annoys me. Oh, that was pretty harsh. I think I recovered from it, but it was pretty harsh, and it did smash some glass somewhere on the vehicle. It doesn't feel too damaged. I may have slightly dented a wheel or something, but if anything happened from that, it was pretty minor because the suspension for the most part sorted out. Quite refined over here. The horrible lumpy bumpy section is where we will await our demise possibly, because that is really harsh on the suspension, and the wheel axles in these ETKs are not the toughest things in the world, so if they go, we've pretty much doomed ourselves. Well, the car has doomed itself, because it's unlikely I'm just going to make the wheel axles go. But they are fragile, as I say, so it may just be me looking at them funny that makes them go. Mind, they have been made tougher with updates to the game, so they're not as bad as they used to be. They're just not the toughest wheel axles in the world. Like, I believe the 200BX probably has the toughest wheel axles. Get a slide there. Ooh. Trying to floor it into here to somewhat balance the performance. The automatic is really getting in the way though. I can feel that. The automatic feels like it's pulling the car back. Feels like it's stopping it reaching its full potential. And I've got a brake here because... oh... I feel I gently went up that slope, but it could have been a lot worse. As I say, an open differential, so it's a little more forgiving than certain other types of differential. And this hill, this should show if I really have enough power. Seems to be getting up here no problem, but then the automatic shifted, and maybe when it shouldn't have shifted, and it did start to struggle, but we are getting up. No major problems with actually scaling that hill then. I just fear the oil crisis hill might capture it, because it's not a powerful vehicle. And we've seen certain rear-wheel drive muscle cars, just the same drive line as this, have got caught out. Different engine, mind, so maybe this will be a better balanced car. Maybe it'll have more weight over the rear, and because of that, make it up. Because remember, those V8 muscle cars, they are V8s, they have pretty large engines. I believe this is just a 2-litre turbocharged diesel engine, so unexciting as it might be at some of these areas, I'm kind of thankful that the power is lacking, because it feels like whereas it's relatively tame overall, it could get horrible quick. Now, it's not the nicest vehicle over these bumps, but it does a good job. It's probably the best vehicle we've had yet, with the exception of the Chevrolet Capri, possibly. Or I don't know, even including that, it's about on level with that. Either car was a little shaken by the bumps, but kind of okay. I fear because of that the steering may go or something. Have I spoken too soon? No, I don't think so. I think I just got an awkward angle. I don't think the steering's gone. But if the steering had gone, yeah, it would prove that soft suspension you lose your steering, hard suspension you lose control. So it would be an oddity. But I think this is maybe walking the balance quite well. It feels probably one of the most controllable vehicles along here as well, I will admit. The Chevrolet, by this point, I'm not sure if it had lost its steering, but that was just a kind of difficult car to drive at times. I think it also had a bit more power than this, might I mention, so this is not looking good for the specifications. But it doesn't need to. It's not supposed to be a race car. It's just a mildly sporty taxi. My taxi service takes you where no one else goes, so that's for sure. Can we get along here? It is impressing me in how resilient it is, especially since ETKs aren't exactly known for their strength. The modern ETKs aren't. The I-Series is reasonably tough. Oh, that mud. Yeah. Again, as I say, it does like to skate about a bit. I think it's just because it's on economy tyres as opposed to anything that would be preferable around here. Race tyres even, I don't know, because of the weird game physics and stuff, I think race tyres may be better suited to this terrain, hard as it is to think about. Although, there may be wider tyres on this than you would typically expect from a base model, being a modern vehicle where tyres tend to be wider. Whereas you may have got 195 tyres on a Leguan, this would have 215, say, or 225s. Something around that it will probably be, and yeah, I had to slow right down there. If I am using the power correctly, I can go quite well. I just have to remember it's not a perfect vehicle, and it never will be. It's lacking, really. My fingers just want to change gear, but there's nothing to do. Or should I say my thumb? It wants to change gear, but there's just nothing for it to do. And the whole thing is bringing the experience down, as well as, I think, bringing the speed the car is capable of down. Obviously, the most important thing is we actually beat the oil crisis, which, again, the transmission could get in the way of. It's moving enough, though. I don't think it's going to be the worst time in the world, and it may well beat the Covid, but the old ETK will almost certainly be quicker because of the same drive line, but it's really a properly race-bred thing. It was even a race car, so saying this will beat it, even with that being an older car, is a pretty hard thing to do. And, oh dear. No, we're making it round there. See, the problem is, though, when you floor it, it's in the gear it wants to be, which is often too low. In a manual, you could just shift up a gear with the knowledge you're going to fill that gear as you get onto the straight or wherever you're going. This doesn't know, so it just keeps revving it in first gear or whatever, and please make it up. Ooh, it is. Just about. There's a real struggle here, but it did just about make it up there. Maybe the struggle was bigger than with the Covet because of the weight of the vehicle. It's hard to say, but I did make it up, and that means we can go on to our second lap, hopefully. It's driving well, though. I will admit, for all the things you can say about these, it has been durable over this course, over a kind of real-life scenario where you're not just crashing cars for the sake of crashing them. thing is fairly tough, I must say. The problem is when you get a warning light and you need all the computers to fix it. Out here, there's not exactly a garage anywhere. Oh, that hill is awkward. But that hill has been awkward with other cars. It's not just this one. Yeah, so it's a good car. It just needs a bit more power and a manual transmission and better tyres. That would really make this something special, I feel, both in terms of lap time and in terms of driving characteristics. As it is, it's a solid platform, just not quite there. I would say the visibility could be improved, but let's be honest, it probably can't, not with modern crash safety regulations requiring cars have the thick pillars. Oh dear. The technology could probably be stripped down a bit, because in many cases you don't really need a DVD player in your car or whatever fancy technologies this happens to have, as I got a kicker of oversteer there, but just about managed to recover it. You'll see, above all though, it is stable. Above all, it's not exactly fallen to pieces, so slow as it may be, it is setting a time. And yeah, I just looked at, without forced induction, it's probably poorer than the Covet for power, or about the same possibly, but it's no better without the forced induction kicking in. We do have a turbo, as I've probably mentioned, so that will mean torque should be pretty good for an engine of this size, as well as the fact I believe it's a diesel, although it doesn't look like a diesel. It had a D in the name, which you'd think would detonate it being a diesel, but the torque looks very petrol-esque, which is odd. Maybe it's just the torque kicks in earlier, and it does have huge amounts of torque, but usually diesels have massive torque, like you can get 1,000 torques out of them when you only have 400 horsepower or something like that. Can we maintain our speed? Now if we can carry 80 miles per hour along here, I'll be happy with myself, but it doesn't look like the engine and transmission really want to do that. Front wheel drive just feels like it's the better drive line, other than when you really attack the abusive parts of the course, and we're going wide, but I think I can recover it. Yes, I can, but I'm going close to the edge. Yeah, as I say, if I was a front wheel driver, it would have been pulling itself along. Something is wrong with the suspension on the rear, I feel, or maybe the steering bits on the front. It's not enough to make the thing completely undrivable, but it does hurt the handling slightly. And there we go, across the line, onto our second lap, which I'm happy to say we have got a second lap this time. It's not done too horribly. I just feel the vehicle we've got next, or maybe the vehicle we've got after that, will completely annihilate this, even if only slightly for time, because they just seem better suited. It could just be me, but this with the automatic transmission mainly is hurting. Interestingly, I never felt the Caprice hurting from the transmission, but this, it just seems poorly geared. Maybe it's because the grip is low and I've not got the electronic stability control it's expecting to have helping it along, but I don't know for certain. Can we... oh, cut across here? Yes! That was nice. Trying to maintain a good line. Oh! ETK, you don't like rolling. Oh no. We don't want to fall off. And that has done something to the suspension. And the steering, definitely. But we'll keep on going. That was just amazing though, how I didn't roll. Or how the car didn't roll. I guess it's all, again, the crash safety regulations. They design it to be driven by complete fools like me, so they can contradict it. I think I might have lost one of my steering wheels, but not one of my driven wheels, thankfully. Oh dear. Has that snapped it back into place? No. It is veering to the right quite significantly, but that doesn't stop me steering left. I can still steer left should I need to, so that's always a positive. Oh dear. That could have taken out my right front steering wheel, which I feel is the one left, and I should have been a bit more careful there, to be honest. I don't think this is going to be a quicker lap, but I could be wrong. It still works enough not to have a dramatic failure. Oh dear. I've thrown it away. So, I've returned, and it looks like we've decided to have an open day. I mean, literally, if I just back this up to show you, The doors are all open. There we go. And the boot is open. Hey, it can be a spoiler. No need to worry about that. And it's actually, I don't know. Something happened to the steering. I'll just try resetting it again to see if that fixes the problem, but no, I think it was that way when it fell off the cliff, so it may be undrivable. Also, though, it was, I think, that wheel that was bad and that wheel that was good. I don't know. Either way, oh, park gear. Either way, I can get going now. Ooh, wrong view. Wrong view. As I say, it may be undrivable, but by this stage, I have got a good lap at least, so it's not the end of the world. Ooh, we are somewhat driving. It doesn't like it at all, but it is driving on its open day, and wow, left is really something it does not like. Can we go that way at all? No. There we go. I was trying to steer to the left, and it just wouldn't. So that led me to keep trying to steer left, and that's the wrong button. I'm getting to change gear finally. Now, I honestly think it's had it though. I think it's going to have the steering too affected now, and I've fallen off a cliff. So the time has been taken on to the lap. So I'm going to leave the vehicle here and move on to the next vehicle. Also, do they work? No. Do the tail lights work at all? Hey, I've destroyed all the headlights and tail lights, but I have all my wheels surprisingly intact. In other cars they've been all dented up though. In here they're not actually that dented up, but yeah, there's 3 really good ones and that one is a bit dented. That's surprising. Moving on. Okay, so here we have a 1999 Ford Crown Victoria taxi. The vehicle that set the entire taxi theme off for me, because it's got 280-ish horsepower, rear-wheel drive, a ladder frame, and it's designed to be reasonably refined and comfortable. This could be one of the ideal vehicles to use. As I say, around about 280 horsepower, so it's not underpowered. It's a 1999, so it's relatively modern, and the ladder frame should make it reasonably refined along with a soft suspension. Either way, let's get going and start in 3, 2, 1, and go. Can turn the lights off. We don't really need them around here. So try and recenter the camera. Just try and get a good one into here. It does position you at a very odd low angle. I feel the seat should surely be higher than this, but for now I'll just have to make do, I guess. I'd say visibility compared to the ETK is probably better, but the driving position is probably worse. No ESC here, but we do have ABS, which is always a useful thing to have, meaning it's about as well equipped as the ETK, which, now I mention it, this has a lot more grip to it, despite being the more powerful vehicle with the V8 in the front. As I mentioned with the ETK though also, that made it up the hill, probably partially because it's a better balanced car. So even if it doesn't have the raw statistics, it has enough grip and enough power to pull its way or push its way up the hill, being rear drive. This is so far delivering. I'm just slightly worried about the lumpy section, as the Chevrolet Caprice had its own problems there. Can we please not have our own problems in this? I did do some brief testing, and with some fairly aggressive driving I was easily able to damage some suspension components, sadly, so I get the feeling it's not too tough because of that. Although, I'm liking the way this is handling. It feels like a very nice handling vehicle, and I feel on the leaderboard, just because of that, it could get some good time. Is this actually a vehicle on rally tyres though or something? Because it really grips out here. It has far more grip than I think any other rear drive vehicle I've driven around here as of yet. Having said that, I've not exactly driven any serious rear drive competition to it. The only thing I guess you could compare is the old ETK, which was a race car, thus not really comparable anyway, because it's completely different in every thinkable way. Can we fly over this jump just a bit? Yes. I'm loving this. It's so just so great over the lumps. It's not too anything really. It's not too rolly yet. It's not too soft. It's not too hard. It feels just right as a rally car, which is an odd thing to say for someone's taxi, but you know, so far I would choose this over the ETK had it been my own taxi company. And also, I'm not noticing the automatic transmission. In the ETK, I could feel that. It felt like it was hurting the vehicle. Here, it feels much better ratioed, at least. So if I can't shift myself, at least the computer's doing a decent job of it. Can we power through here? I say computer. I don't think they're computers that run automatic transmissions. I think it's some torque converter or something strange. I don't quite understand them, but they had them far before computers in cars were really a thing. So it's probably not run by a computer unless it's a more recent iteration of one, and I'm going a bit wide here, but it's fine. I'm just loving how refined it is. I mean, I can throw it across these bumps. The lumpy bumpy section, I'm actually feeling may have no problems whatsoever with how this is handling. Ooh, oh dear, that was a horrible place to throw the car, but it took it. And I'm keeping going. Yeah, this is just another car I'm falling in love with. Like the ETK, I just feel maybe a bit less safe when it crashes, but wow, it did slow down there as well. I thought I was going to fly into a wall like I did with the ETK due to my own stupid driving, but the car was able to compensate for my own stupidity. Now here is a hill. Here is probably the second worst hill on the course, and this is not feeling good. No, mind it is eventually finding grip and getting going. It's just, it did not feel good for a moment there, which concerns me. But then I'm always concerned when I take a vehicle up here. I was concerned with a Covet, and we saw that had no major problems with the oil crisis. As it was a light, fairly small car, it would have no problems with the oil crisis. And this is not a light, small car, but maybe it can handle like one. It feels like one, that's for sure. I believe an open differential, as with the ETK. And the handling is something else. I expected this to be okay. I didn't expect it to be particularly bad or good. But what it has turned out to be is something really far more impressive than it has any right to be. And I'm slowing down a bit for there. Ooh, did I hear a smash? I might have heard a smash, but I think it's all okay. I think I'm just imagining things, honestly. And it is fairly refined. Probably the floatiest I've had along here. That is not bad at all. Now, I say that, there is bits vibrating. There's always bits gonna vibrate when you take them over, because this is a horrible piece of terrain to deal with. And I've gone in the mud pit again. I tend to do that with every car, but it's not too harmful as long as you don't have really weak, well, anything on your car. It can just pull out of it and you can get through fine. It's better than throwing it off the course, that's for sure. It's a reasonable line. I mean, maybe I could try and push it more inwards, but I feel that could just hurt the time more than help it. The gear ratios are very nice, and who knew the Ford Crown Victoria was a secret sports car? Well, maybe people have played Forza and built one and found it quite good. I don't know. I don't have that DLC, but I can drive it in Beam and pretend I'm rich. Can we make it around here? Yes, we can. This car can do everything. It's very American. It just doesn't give up. Can we pull around? Ooh, wobble, wobble, wobble. Yes. It's again, it's that American you can car. You can do whatever you want to do. And over here we can maybe... Oh dear. Yeah, I think I just about saved that from a worse crash, throwing it off the cliff. Oh. Yeah. Struggled for grip there, though, trying to get it under control. I hope I've not burst a tyre or something. It didn't say anything, but sometimes Beam can actually simulate something without saying. Yeah, it feels like it's handling fine. I may have damaged some bodywork though, and ooh, that was a dramatic sound. I feel like that could have damaged the ladder frame. But the thing still keeps going. It is not a vehicle to be defeated easily, that's for sure. Solid old American V8 beast of a vehicle. solid amount of torque and power as well always helps it along. Can we... Yeah, I've just realised it has got the old beam sound, sadly. Thankfully that was the sound of just a standard V8, I think, so it's not entirely off as much as you might expect, even though it is a bit muffled and horrible. Can we slow down here? Yes, we can. Ooh, speed! This is feeling really good. The thing is, though, it feels incredibly quick. Maybe it's not. Maybe the ETK was going quicker. Maybe it was just making up the time around corners. Hard to say, but sometimes these things can happen. And sometimes a car feels quick, but it isn't. It is fun, though. I can say that at least. It is a very, very fun vehicle. Now, can we pick up some speed? It is veering ever so slightly to the right, but the problem is not major, so I can follow through with the lap just fine. I'm not sure if I'll lose this on the second lap, due to my own stupidity mainly, but the vehicle's feeling like it's up for it. Even if it may get a bit destroyed along the way, it feels like it's up for another lap. Well, the ETK, they had weak wheel axles, fairly weak wheel axles, and I think on the second lap we just saw them give in, but for the first lap they were tough enough to take the torture and to deal with it. I shouldn't have slowed there, why did I? Either way, I'm getting a nice run up here, up the oil crisis we go. Come on, will you be the first muscle car style of thing to make it up? Come on, please. I think it may. That was a huge struggle, but the Crown Victoria, with its solid power and decent grip and just excellent handling that no one knew about, seemingly, has made it up the oil crisis. Now that concerns me for a second lap, though. Admittedly, I did brake just before the oil crisis because I wasn't really as focused as I should have been, but it was still mainly just the car isn't up for it with all this weight behind it. I get a feeling if I had passengers on board, maybe they would be more comfortable than the Covet or the ETK 800 series, or especially the old ETKI series with that waist suspension, but they certainly would weigh it down a bit, yes, and possibly stop it getting up that hill, so they'd have to go and walk up, which is not something you want to do in the rain, that's for certain. However, I can see the sun ahead, and will this water affect it? Yeah. Think about the Ibishu Dove, though. What's that? Sliding around? I don't know. Funny thing about the Ibishu Dove, though, that always surprised me, was just how well that went through puddles. You'll see how this is struggling, and this is a huge V8 muscle car. The Dove was a tiny mini truck, and it just went through puddles like they weren't there. The one thing it really did well, but it was cheap, and it was cheap for a reason. That was that it was just a horrible thing to drive, I think, because if it had great handling, then it would have flown up in value, but that one sure didn't. Maybe I'll have to take the wagon around and see if the extra weight over the rear wheels makes a serious difference, or better still, an all-wheel drive wagon, which should just be a better balanced version of that pickup truck I drove, both in terms of grip and in terms of actual weight balance, maybe? I don't know. Hard to say how and where an all-wheel drive system adds weight, and that felt like it was going to tip, but it didn't. So, as I was saying at the start, this does still feel like the optimal balance for a vehicle to have around here, and it's been rock solid, as old, solid V8 American cars are known to be. So, I'm happy with this. I feel it may even be, it may even be up with a shot for top 3. The ETK's in first, the Covet's in second, and it wouldn't entirely surprise me if this is in third. Although, it is seeming to struggle when you actually watch the speedometer. It just makes through everything with no problem. And that ETK did have its limits that could be felt. You see here, and the high speed bits, I think the refined suspension is really going to come into its own though, in terms of what I can get away with. It's saying 78. If I was actually holding that, I would be surprised. Oh, had to be careful up a bit there because of a corner. And this is looking like a nice long straight. There's probably a few lumps in it, but I think the car can take it. Come on, give it all you got. Although, I do want to make it onto a second lap, so I can't just go crazy through the finish line. Slow it down into here. And I can just floor it through there. Maybe a bit more careless than before, but this is the lap I feel I can really be careless. Wide the wall, or maybe not wide the wall, it just corrected itself enough. Maybe I'm just not giving this car enough pressure. Maybe it can handle far more pressure than I'm giving it, although when I do that, the transmission really does feel its limits. Driving it as I was, which was in a kind of careful but fairly sporty manner, the transmission had no problems, but now I'm really pushing it, sure it has problems. I guess that's no surprise, since this is not a sports car. As good as it is at being one unintentionally, it was not meant to be a sports car. Could just see all the trim wobbling around back there, though. This is a surprise, certainly. I knew it was going to be quite good, but I never knew it was going to be just as good as it is. And that's always a kind of surprise I like, not the nasty surprises. Like, I guess the Maluch, but the Maluch you kind of expect it because it's a rear-engined compact vehicle with all kinds of stiffness, lacking areas. I don't know. I can speak someday. I love how the auto is keeping it in the power band though. Maybe that's why I made it up the hill. Maybe ETK just wasn't doing a good enough job. Maybe it just didn't have the power. Come on. It does. I can feel though, as I'm pushing it more and more, I can feel the automatic making more misshifts and giving the car more problems, and at the same time it is allowing me to focus on the road, so even if it is reducing my speed I can technically carry, I'm no race driver and it is helping. Since there's plenty of grip available in the vehicle, there is no issue of really having the automatic bits put it down as long as they do it well, which they don't seem to be doing all the time. When they do it well, this thing really falls into place and it's just a lovely thing to drive. As much as I would like to shift myself, I'm not the best thing in the world, I guess. This is probably technically better than me if everything goes its way, which it doesn't always, especially not when you're doing something you're not meant to do with a car like this. Oh, too much acceleration there, and I almost threw it off a cliff, but I just saved it, and the car did, I guess, by having a good enough turning circle. Still, the thing keeps going. That would have destroyed the ETK. The ETK just didn't have the grip levels this did, and it doesn't have the power levels this did, but it still got up the hill better. It's an odd conundrum I can't quite understand. The hill just eats muscle cars, but something like that ETK is perfectly fine, even though that is probably more or less as heavy as this. Maybe 100 kilos lighter, but 100 kilos lighter in cars that are 1700 and 1800 kilos to begin with anyway. And this is significantly more powerful, yet it struggled anyway, and presumably has much better tyres because it's gripping so much better. I think having these small wheels is helping as well. As I mentioned, it is very refined, but the ETK had larger wheels, I believe. They were probably 1 inch larger on that, despite the entire vehicle being smaller. Can we make it there? Yes. I was a bit late there, and the car did, as usual, save me from my own stupidity. Can we survive up here? I'm thinking if I'm trying to beat my first lap, the best thing to do is just try and floor it through here. No. Maybe that wasn't the best thing to do. But either way, it is just about finding a gear and finding its way up this hill at over 40 miles per hour. The speed of this, indeed. Yeah, imagine this when I return it to the taxi company. Hey, maybe it looks fine on the outside. It's hard to say. It may have just lost the front and rear bumper, or maybe lost no bumpers for all I know of, and that was going far too wide. I can push it wide here though and use that to get it back onto the track. And I say track, is it a road? Is it kind of more of a dirt track? Get it to the inside there, and lovely. I'm liking it. That's all I can say. It's like someone built a car for me. Just, it's so beautiful in the handling. Oh, and that was me trying to be a bit more daring and push it into the lumpy section. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. I don't know. It's handling fine though. Maybe leaning. I don't know. I would have just said it was moving to the wide by itself, but that may have just been the terrain and the bumps and the nature of them that were forcing it that way. The tyres haven't burst yet though. I've not lost a single tyre in all my abuse of this vehicle. Try taking a wider line here to avoid the dirt, which I probably shouldn't do in any other car, but this can just take it without falling off the edge, so that may have saved me a tiny amount of time. It was probably the best way I could take the corner, to be honest. Oh dear. Yeah, I have confidence in this though. Now this section, which has messed with many a car, can be taken at speed in something, which is always a lovely thing to do. Ooh, look at that, see? It just takes it. Other vehicles with a bump like that, they wouldn't just settle out and keep going like this Ford Crown Victoria does. I feel like I'm advertising Crown Victorias now. I wouldn't say I'm torn though. I would say I would easily take this over the ETK, even if the ETK is a technically quicker car. This is just lovely. I'd take it over the Covet as well. The Covet though was ultimately a cheap hatchback, so it would always feel slightly more classy than that car would. And try and get it through here. Ooh, is that mud? No. But I am pushing it up onto that kind of lump, which I don't want to do. Like flooring it through here, although, yeah, again, I probably shouldn't, but the vehicle takes it, and how did it settle that out? That should have pushed it onto its roof, and the only punishment I'm getting is it's veering to the left. It really is like the ETK in that respect, very, very forgiving, regardless of how you treat it. It's just such a nice vehicle to know. Where am I? There's the road. I was just like, am I exploring in grass for a moment? It's becoming a wild animal. Oh dear. I can feel though what the bumps are doing. It's actually a boat. It's probably the best way I can describe it, and that was far too edgy there. But it's back on. It does want to go to the left now, but I think that's probably because I've damaged something. I may have just dented up the wheel, but when the wheel is that small, it can have bigger implications. But when it's big, I don't know. But it is still going, and it's going at decent pace, or at least no slower than it was. Just this transmission, again, it gets worse and worse the more you drive it. Now, if I could get this with a good manual, that would probably be my dream car, but the auto is ruining it for me right now. It's ruining a great flow I have going. The Covet was lovely because everything was so composed and controlled when you did it. This is lovely for the same reason, but the transmission gets in the way and it's not quite as composed as it because of that. Oh, that is not a typical way to take a corner, nor is it the correct way, but the Ford took it. Good old Ford. Can we find balance in the mess? There we go. Somehow, it is still going. Oh dear, the oil crisis. Now, if I have some damage to my power delivery, this is where it's going to really show. I didn't brake that time. I managed to carry the speed. And come on. Yes, it's doing it. I think it was doing this last time. But it may have just had it, yeah. By this point, I could try backing it up and everything, but I think I'll just leave it here because I'm not legitimately going to beat my other time now. Now I've had to stop and everything, and oh dear. We're back on our wheels. I want to see how bad this is. Ooh. Come on. So, as I was saying about the wheels getting dented, yeah. We can call that a dented wheel. That's for sure. It's just taking so much abuse. But what have they made these of? Are these wheels made of cheese or something? The car is so tough, but then the wheels have just collapsed a bit in on themselves. But anyway, a very impressive car to drive. And although it couldn't quite make it up the oil crisis on the second lap, it did a very good first lap. So I'll leave it at that and say to move on to the next vehicle now. So here I have the Rapid Taxi Sunburst. Essentially a base model Sunburst with some taxi bits. Not much more to say about it. Ooh, look at that taxi sign. Anyway, let's hopefully get going with this and see how it does. So I'll get going in 3, 2, 1, and a go. CVT transmission in this, which I've had to add myself because for some reason the parts menu only gives you the CVT, whereas it gives you a 6-speed manual from default despite claiming to have a CVT from default, and a 6-speed manual doesn't shift down gears, which is a very strange way of things happening, but that's the way things have happened, and understeer's catching me out. Oh, that was a bit of a nasty bump, but I think the suspension took it since I was going at such a slow speed through there. I think the bodywork took it as well. This is not an expensive car, mind, so we can't quite expect the fit and finish of the Ford, which was naturally a more expensive car. We can expect ESC, which I've turned off, as I mentioned, the series rules, but it's how you would expect a front-wheel drive to handle. I mean, maybe the longer wheelbase makes it understeer more than a Covet, but either one of them is a very good handling front-wheel drive car, so there's not another way of seeing it, really. Can we maintain good speed? Gotta be careful. Oh, that was nasty. That was so nasty. There's just so much understeer that takes you by surprise. Yes, surprise is now a word. And it's not always nice. Try and brake into it. Oh, that was just about saved quite nicely. The positives of a front wheel drive is normally that you can just stick the power in it and save it, but with this it doesn't have any power. The Covet was kind of a different car. The Covet was more of a momentum car than this. This feels like it needs at least a bit more power to be properly utilised, and going wide there, but I can save it. Just about rescue it into the track, and can I get it round here? I don't know. I don't like the sounds this engine's making as a result of the transmission. It doesn't exactly sound too sporty. So, whereas the other vehicles were extremely solid and wouldn't fall off the course, this, well, I can't quite find the camera angle to show, but yeah, it fell off a cliff. It's just you can't dig the front end in like other cars. I think even the Covet I could do that. Thankfully, I've managed to escape it mainly damage-free, so if this isn't too affected by the bumps, I may be able to get a good second lap or just somewhat rescue this lap, because I will be resetting this vehicle from the points where it was on the road, not from the points where it was hanging off the cliff, since it seems fairer. The bumper on this does not stay on that hard though. The Crown Victoria, I believe that had its bumper after all the abuse of all kinds had thrown at it, and that Crown Victoria was tough. Maybe the wheels themselves weren't tough, but the rest of the car was. And I'm going to just power here and the hill can save me. Yeah, I can feel like ESC is kicking in though and reducing power, but that is just the transmission getting in the way. I'm really not liking this CVT here. Can I get into it? Yes. Oh, no. Kind of. That was not particularly horrible, but it did feel horrible at the time as I just drifted into the mountain. I just don't think there's the grip here and the agility that there was in the Covet, and that's really hurting it. I can try and push it again. It feels somewhat like what other vehicle? I think the Chevrolet Caprice might have had it, where it just didn't quite feel as powerful as it could be, and I threw it at that wall there. Somehow this thing is still going, and still going well. I need to be careful though, I want to make 2 full laps in this. That's it. I think it needs more grip, to be entirely honest. I just don't think the grip is here to give it the turning, to give it the cornering ability. Meaning it just understeers everywhere because the tyres just don't turn on it as well as it should. I imagine the high performance versions of this would be entertaining around here, even if it wouldn't last as long due to just being thrown at such speeds. Maybe it could be an old ETK, but I'm probably getting my hopes up too much there. As again, it just drifts across the road in the oddest of manners. Floats across the road, would I say? Because the suspension and the wheels and tyres, they're just not able to pull the grip from this chassis. It's not exactly the ideal situation. Or is this where the horrible section is? Oh, at least there I managed to cater for the drifting by turning in very, very soon. The tyres are dreadful though, the tyres are genuinely dreadful. They feel like they're straight out of the 1980s. I mean, they're that bad. Maybe 1980s cars would even have better tyres. Can we rescue it? It feels refined enough over here. Mind, I said the Crown Victoria was the best. Maybe this is beating it in some weird turn of events. And I did brake far too late there. The brakes aren't the best again because of the tyres. The tyres are holding back what could otherwise be a capable car, as is a CVT transmission. It just feels like, I don't know, the taxi company didn't want you to drive it at crazy high speeds off-road. Whatever would be the reason for that? We don't want people joyriding in their taxis. What would be the reason for that? I just can't figure. Now, I'm trying to floor it through here, but it doesn't quite want to. Can we... Oh dear. It feels, I don't know, it feels maybe like it's gripping better on this terrain, or maybe it's just the space to deal with it, or maybe the bumps just catch your tyres and that kind of gives me a weird sort of turn in. And round we go. This feels so incredibly slow though, it wouldn't surprise me too much if it doesn't make it up the oil crisis. And there goes the bumper, flapping about. How is you still attached over there? I say, now it's gone. The bumper's gone for good, I made it angry. Now I'm probably going to have loads of leaves in my radiator. Leaves, yes. Not leaves, leaves. Because that's how we pronounce here. Can we accelerate through the part of the course you're not supposed to go on, because I don't want to go on the road for some ridiculous reason. I'm just thinking I would love a Pessima all-wheel steer. Mind, the rear wheels might not hold up, but the agility that thing would have in comparison. It's not designed for speed, but sure, you could just do a slightly better job of it. And I slow down here as I go up onto that part where I almost threw it off the course, but not quite. Yeah, as I'm saying, the brakes are hindered, and that was a very steep slope, but I thankfully managed to brake on time, so that wasn't a major issue. It is getting round the course though. I just fear what this will look like when we get to the oil crisis. I'm actually worried about it. Can we maintain our speed somewhat? I don't know, it's just not picking up speed. Almost like it's limited, but I think it's because it was an uphill section. Yeah, it doesn't look like it can go above 60, which is an odd thing to say. That's the way it feels though. Oh, speed! Braking into here. Ow. Somehow this vehicle lasted. Well, I say it's a rally car, it's just the tyres on this one are so dreadful that that's about as fast as you'll get. And the speed just isn't in the transmission. It's probably not even designed to go above 55 because it's a standard street going economy car. It's not a race car by any stretch of the imagination in this config, although I wish it was. And we're making it up. Come on. Given the circumstances, I'm willing to give this another try. Although I do not have hopes that are that high for it. Oh dear. Turn it round. And hopefully find some grit. I'm thinking if I go around the outside, we can maybe use the walks. No? Okay. It had a fair chance. It's just the tyres aren't here. Quite a miserable end to it, actually. And you can see how tough it is, though. It somehow survived that horrible section of the track, even. But it just doesn't have the tyre grip here. Maybe the base model would have better tyres and it would have some cornering ability. But in this configuration, it doesn't. And also, there's something I have to do before I give this car back. There we go. Now, that's okay. So, I'm going to end this episode here. So, I'll say goodbye until another day.